What would happen if you lived one day like it was 1985? No phone, no internet, making plans and keeping them. We dug up 20 things that prove the 80s weren't just different. They were magical. Get ready for a trip down memory lane. The pick and mix ceremony. Saturday morning 1985. You're clutching 50 pence like it's the crown jewels. Straight to Woolworths pick and mix counter. Cola bottles versus flying saucers. Space dust versus refresher tubes. And here's what you did. Don't even try to deny it. You had a sneaky test of a few pieces. The shop assistants pretended not to notice because they understood sacred territory. Ask yourself this. When's the last time you walked into one shop and found everything? School uniforms, vinyl records, garden tools, toys, sweets, staff who actually knew their products. Can you imagine that today? But Woolworths was just the beginning of what made weekends magical. When music was a mystery, you hear an incredible song on the radio just once. Can't Shazam it, can't Google the lyrics. What do? You become a detective. Music shops with humans who lived and breathed music. You'd hum the melody to some guy with long hair. Half the time, he'd know exactly what you meant. Oh yeah, that's the new Human League B-side. The thrill of that moment. Nothing today comes close. Music felt valuable because it was hard to get. And if you thought finding music required patience, wait until you hear about this weekend ritual. Saturday morning TV religion. Wake up early, bowl of cereal, eyes glued to the screen watching Saturday Superstore and He-Man. If you missed your show, you missed it forever. No catch-up, no streaming. This created something beautiful. Everyone watched the same things at the same time. Monday morning at school meant arguing about whether He-Man could beat Optimus Prime. Would you survive having just one telly in the house? When Dad wanted news, everyone watched the news. Seriously, could you handle watching what someone else wanted? But telly wasn't the only thing that tested your endurance in the 80s. The Texan Bar Challenge. Sure is a mighty chew. Remember that, cowboy? Chewy nougat and toffee wrapped in chocolate. These weren't sweets, it was a jaw workout. The telly adverts showed cowboys escaping from bandits because the bar took so long to chew. Or people complained it was too hard to eat. Can you imagine complaining that your chocolate bar was too challenging today? But if Texan bars were tough, this next treat was downright dangerous. The space dust experience. Tiny crystals that literally exploded in your mouth. Pour it straight onto your tongue, feel it crackle and pop like tiny fireworks. Rumor was it got banned because kids' stomachs were exploding. In the 80s, we believed dangerous sweets were the best sweets. If your sweets weren't potentially lethal, was it even worth eating? But nothing prepared you for this frozen gamble. Findus crispy pancakes, the ultimate gamble. Frozen pancakes filled with mystery ingredients, ham and cheese, chicken and mushroom. They all somehow tasted exactly the same. You'd bite too early and scald your tongue, every single time. The filling was molten lava, the outside barely warm. Comfort food that contained zero actual comfort, and we loved every dangerous bite. But when you wanted real sophistication, there was only one choice. Viennetta, the height of class. Those delicate chocolate layers that shattered when you touched them. Mum would appear with the Viennetta, and suddenly your boring Sunday roast felt like Christmas morning. When did food last come with its own sound effects? But some sounds were even more important than pudding. The red phone box ritual, that heavy black receiver, the satisfying chunk of coins dropping, the distinctive smell, cigarettes, rain and desperation. Making a call required planning. Exact change. Time literally cost money. Result? When you said, "Meet me at 7 o'clock outside the cinema," you turned up at 7 o'clock. People were more dependable because they had to be. And speaking of things you could depend on, this sound meant the world was still working. Milk bottles at dawn. Every morning the same comforting soundtrack. Glass bottles clinking as the milkman made his rounds. Silver, red or gold foil tops, left before sunrise. Birds knew exactly when to peck through for the cream. Returning empties felt like a small ritual that kept everything in order. After the milk was delivered and breakfast was sorted, if you needed information, you turned to something that seemed like magic. Ceefax. Mind-blowing technology. Those blocky, colourful text pages on your telly. Page 302 for football, page 101 for news. Information through your television. Revolutionary. Half the text was usually missing. Pages took forever to load. Absolutely addictive. The electronic buzzing sound of Ceefax loading is burnt into British memory, but for portable entertainment, there was only one option. The Walkman revolution. Before Spotify, this was freedom. Your own personal soundtrack wherever you went. That satisfying click of the cassette door, chunky foam headphones. Tapes wore out, batteries died constantly. You'd use a pencil to rewind them. Walking down the street with your Walkman felt like starring in your own music video, but for visual entertainment, you needed to make a proper pilgrimage. Video shop adventures. Friday night ritual, whole family piles into the car, destination, Blockbuster, or your local independent video shop. New releases had waiting lists. Everyone wanted Back to the Future, Top Gun, or Dirty Dancing. Horror sections felt forbidden and thrilling. You judge films entirely by their covers. 3 rules: rewind the tape, return by Sunday, or face the consequences. But if you really wanted excitement, you needed to head somewhere special. Arcade invasion, Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Donkey Kong, flashing lights and electronic beeps filled seaside arcades and shopping centres. 10p pieces disappeared faster than you could feed them in. The satisfying click of joysticks, the frustration of game over flashing on screen. Arcades weren't just gaming, they were social hubs where legends were born and pocket money vanished. And when you needed fuel for all that button mashing. Marathon bar marathons. 8 inches of plaited caramel covered in chocolate. The wrapper had ruler markings to prove how massive it was. These weren't chocolate bars, they were endurance tests. You'd share them because finishing alone was practically impossible. In 1990, they became Snickers. Marathon bars were epic quests. Snickers are just normal. But these weren't the only sweets that had us arguing about names. Opal Fruits Before Starburst. Made to make your mouth water. Orange, lemon, strawberry, lime. They were opal fruits, not Starburst. The name change in 1998 still doesn't sit right. The original advert with the juicy explosion. Pure 80s gold. When did sweets last have proper jingles? But to afford all these treats, kids had to learn the value of hard graft. Paper round adventures. 5:30 in the morning, rain or shine. Canvas bag weighing a ton, delivering newspapers door to door. Your first proper job, first real responsibility. That crisp fiver at the end of the week felt like an absolute fortune. Quiet morning streets, rattling letterboxes, the satisfying thud of papers hitting doormats. Kids today wouldn't last one morning. That paper round taught you patience and perfect timing, skills you'd need for something even more crucial. ZX Spectrum Adventures. 48K of pure computing power, the rubber-keyed wonder that turned British living rooms into gaming dens. Loading games from cassette tapes, waiting 10 minutes for Manic Miner to load. That distinctive loading screen pattern, the hope it wouldn't crash halfway through. The Spectrum wasn't just a computer, it was your gateway to digital worlds. But when you wanted family entertainment, Friday nights had something special. Knight Rider obsession. Friday nights at 7 o'clock, the whole family gathered around the telly. Kit, the talking car, Michael Knight's leather jacket, that theme tune that still gives you goosebumps. Every kid wanted a Trans Am. Every playground buzzed with Knight Rider talk. If you could bring back just one program from the 80s, would it be this one? While we dreamt of Trans Ams, there was something we could actually get our hands on. Wagon Wheels were massive. They used to be huge, proper massive. Now they're tiny. Or are we just bigger? Chocolate-covered marshmallow biscuits that took both hands to hold. Jam in the middle. Coconut coating. Pure childhood bliss. Every 80s kid swears they've shrunk. Every parent says we've grown up. Who's telling the truth? But forget childhood treats. Saturday was about something the whole family looked forward to. High street expeditions. Saturday shopping wasn't a chore, it was the highlight of your week. Every town centre had personality. C and A, Little Woods, British home stores, independent shops run by families who knew your name. You could browse for hours without buying anything. Compare that to today. Same shops everywhere, same corporate sameness. What we really lost. Life moved at human speed. When everything wasn't instantly available, what you had felt precious. When communication required effort, relationships became stronger. We traded depth for access, quality for convenience, presence for connection. Drop your memories in the comments. Which of these hit you hardest? And if this trip back brought a smile to your face, smash that subscribe button, because there's so much more about British culture that vanished without us even noticing. And we'll be covering it all here.